Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Today, we are looking at this month's release in Big Finish's 60th anniversary celebration of Doctor Who Once in Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, released in September of 2023, written by Jonathan Barnes, directed by Ken Bentley. The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50 stars David Tennant as the 10th Doctor and Michelle Gomez as Missy. Also featured in the cast are Neve McIntosh as Madame Vastra, Katrin Stewart as Jenny Flint, and Dan Starkey as Strax, the Paternoster Gang. As always, because I do these unscripted, there is a blanket spoiler warning in place, so if you do not wish to be spoiled, in the description box below is the link to Big Finish's website where you can purchase Doctor Who, Once in Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50. And once again, we're going to start with overall thoughts here. I wouldn't call this one of the best stories in the series, but it is one of the most enjoyable. There is a lot of entertainment value to this particular story. And I'll talk about that a little more once we get into the plot summary and everything. So, I'm going to start with the ranking, like I always do. I've been ranking these as they come out, so at the bottom is Past Lives. There's some good ideas there, but Robert Valentine needed way more time than an hour to explore them. And then right up from Past Lives is A Genius for War. Objectively, it might be the best, but I'm not just about objective quality of a story. For me, a lot of my enjoyment of a story is emotional resonance. And for me, there just isn't any to A Genius for War. After that, we have The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, and then Two's Company, and then The Artist at the End of Time is still my favorite. So what's the story here? Well, actually, before we do that, I want to comment on something. I meant to comment on this on Two's Company. I don't remember if I did or not. I should have watched that video. But, so, as you know, the premise of Once in Future is that the Doctor has been hit with a degeneration weapon, and it's causing his regeneration cycle to go haywire. He's basically been forced to go through several past regenerations. Remember, the assumption right now, not knowing what happened yet, is that this happened to the 8th Doctor. So in Past Lives, what was it called? The Artist at the End of Time, wow, A Genius for War. So yeah, in those first three, it was sort of cycling randomly through various regenerations. Like, he might be the 3rd Doctor for a moment, and then he'll be the 5th Doctor, and then he'll be the 3rd Doctor, and so on, until he settles into the regeneration that is the focus of this story. In Two's Company, they kind of did away with that and kind of had it be an extended cameo for the first portion of the story. So in Two's Company, like the first 10 minutes or so of that story was Tim Treloar as the 3rd Doctor. And they do that again here. Instead of just cycling randomly through the regeneration cycle before settling on the 10th Doctor, it is the 1st Doctor. And this is really my first time, outside of those previous cameos in Once in Future, hearing Stephen Noonan in an extended capacity, because I have fallen behind on the 1st Doctor adventures and have not gotten any of his stuff. I really like him, and just this little sample here makes me excited to hear more of him. Anyway, the Doctor arrives on a lifeless, or should be lifeless, lump of rock known as Planetoid 50 from the title, but he finds all sorts of strange goings-on. Like, there's a replica of London here being invaded by Martians. Now, of course, Martians in Doctor Who are the Ice Warriors, but that's not what's going on here. These Martians are of a different kind. Like, they've covered the Earth in red plant. They've covered this replica of London in red plants. They came to Earth right after mysterious volcanic eruptions on the surface of Mars, and they came in large tripods. So this story is very obviously lampooning H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds, and the Doctor makes very quick notice of that. And around this time, he's now settled into the 10th Doctor. But what's going on? Well, look who's in the story. You can probably figure out what's going on. Anyway, sorry, I'm all over the place today. Anyway, the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. He is really good in this story. Now, I have made it no secret. I bring it up a lot. David Tennant's 10th Doctor is my least favorite Doctor for a myriad of reasons I'm going to try not to get into, but David Tennant is a great actor. I just don't like the 10th Doctor. And he's handled really well here, you know. He is toned down a lot, so he's not as annoyingly obnoxious as he was on TV. And even on Big Finish, you know, some of those moments where the Doctor has to be self-righteous and holier than thou, Tennant pulls off really well on stories in Big Finish. You know, probably because he knows how to act them and how to direct them. Whereas, again, in his TV stuff, he was very preachy. That doesn't really come into effect in this story. It's just a general note that what I'm saying is Big Finish does the 10th Doctor better than his era did. And David Tennant is great here. But of course, Michelle Gomez as Missy is the show stealer. Like, every scene she's in, she just demands your attention. And it works really well. This is not one of Missy's more sinister stories. And I'm kind of saving that for when and if I do decide to talk about spoilers, because it relates to the overall plot of Once and Future, but it does really display her madness very well. The Paternoster gang is here, and that's pretty much it. They're just here. That is a trend I have been noticing in Once and Future that, sorry, I didn't know how to phrase that. That they have decent casts. These stories have decent casts, but there's always one character in these stories, at least one character, that kind of gets shafted, you know, who's really just there for the sake of anniversary story. You know, in past lives, it was Sarah Jane. In The Artist at the End of Time, it was Jenny. Well, she was good in the first half, and then the curator showed up, and then suddenly she had nothing to do. In A Genius for War, I guess it was the General, and then in Two's Company, it was Harry. Here, it's Jenny and Strax. Katrin Stewart and Dan Starkey are great. They just don't have a lot to do. You know, Strax has been separated from the Paternoster gang, and the Doctor finds him independently, but then every time we cut back to him, it's just him trying to rejoin the group, and Jenny spends most of the story being mind controlled by Missy. Madame Vastra has a lot to do, and she's enjoyable. Her rapport with the 10th Doctor is really good. Similarly, David Tennant's rapport with Michelle Gomez is hugely enjoyable, and also further lends credence to my theory that Michelle Gomez is John Sims done right. Also, just in the behind the scenes, I want to say this too. David Tennant confirmed a suspicion I've had that Michelle Gomez ad-libs a lot. And I love the way he said it. He said, it's so difficult trying to get your cue because you never know when she's done. The story itself is fine. The Doctor is basically forced to play out a recreation Missy made of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And why? Because, here's the big spoiler stuff. This is your last warning. Because the Master has also been hit with the degeneration weapon. So she enacted this crazy scheme to kind of sort of settle her mind and try to keep her focused. In fact, she said that the weapons her Martians are using have the same makeup as the degeneration weapon. So obviously, Missy knows what's going on. So after the starting point in past lives, it's been a month now, so I'm going to spoil it. We had that little bit of plot progression in Two's Company that hints River might be involved somehow. And now we have another big plot reveal here. The Master has also been hit with a degeneration weapon, and she knows where it came from and possibly who used it. She tells the Doctor before she leaves, because she has also begun to degenerate, to seek out the Union. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens from there, just given what details we've got about the next story, and also the fact that the penultimate story, before Coda, the final act, is called The Union. I really don't have anything else to say. The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50 is just fun. It's got a very basic story, nothing to write home about, nothing grand. But again, the performances, in particular from David Tennant and Michelle Gomez, are really what make it work. But that's all I have to say about it. Have you heard The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50? What are your thoughts? Start a conversation in the comments below, and join me next month, where this time it is the ninth Doctor's turn, and we in what will be probably a very melancholy story because it is the final audio from the late David Warner. So join me next month for Time Lord Immemorial. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.